Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. The following interview is designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be. Your host, Derek Champagne, is the founder and CEO of The Artist Evolution, a full-service agency building successful brands, marketing tools, and campaigns, and also the author of the best-selling book, Don't Buy a Duck. And now, let's begin today's Leadership Series interview.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where our goal is to inspire you to become the best leader that you can be. I've got Adam Brewer with us today. He is the Chief Operating Officer for Information Systems Integration and also helped to form ShieldLogic IQ. Adam, welcome to our program today.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. It's exciting to be here. I'm very thankful that for the opportunity to be on the show.
You've got a great resume, and one of the things that you do that's extremely helpful, we had an issue today. You're passionate about helping business owners to alleviate their unnecessary struggles with technology, specifically security. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so, I think small business owners, even the SMEs, entrepreneurs, I think cybersecurity in general has become this big monster that everyone's kind of afraid of. There's so much information out there, and there's a lot of scaremongering going on where you hear about these big high-level data breaches and companies going under, and it's just become this really big monster, I guess, is really the only way to describe it. But people don't really know where to start, and we see that a lot in the statistics. And so, what I aim to do is to try to take all of that technical jargon and bring it down to a level that everybody understands. But more importantly, instead of looking at it like this really big, overwhelming situation, that we break it down to some really simple information that is actionable that can help people get on the right path.
That's great. I appreciate that you're doing this, because a lot of clients that I have, or a lot of companies that I've seen, ourselves included, have been reactive instead of proactive, and that's not usually the best time, I'm guessing. Correct. And that's been the traditional approach to all of this. Is it's a reactive situation, but you see more and more of it nowadays, where companies are starting to be a lot more proactive, doing some monitoring and some risk assessments and things like that ahead of time. And I absolutely think that's the way to go. The reactive approach is usually pretty costly. Yeah, and we spend all this time protecting our product, building our relationships, and understanding our customers' desires and our supply chain and all the things that we do. And then sometimes this area is neglected. Can you give me some numbers? Give me some numbers of what it looks like. How big is human error? How big are the security breaches happening? Just shock us with a couple things that we may not know about in that area.
Well, I will tell you that 95% of cyber breaches are due to human error. Ransomware is kind of the soup du jour, if you will. And 90% of ransomware requires some form of human interaction in order for it to do its job, meaning that you have to click on a link or download a file or go to a website. So the human error portion comes heavily into play there, where they have to do something in order for that ransomware to be active. One of the really important statistics that I mention a lot is that 60%, or right around there, statistics are kind of here and there. You can manipulate those however you want, but more than half, most small businesses that encounter a significant breach close their doors permanently within 6 months. So they're totally out of business.
Wow.
And that's the scariest one to me, to know that you built something up and it's your passion and it's your dream. And I mean, me being an entrepreneur myself and going through that whole process, I know the blood, sweat, and tears and the sleepless nights that takes. Yeah. So to think that could all go away simply because your staff wasn't trained, or you overlooked something, or you just didn't know where to start, or didn't think it was a priority, that bothers me a lot. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm here, and that's one of the reasons why ShieldLogic was created.
That's great. I mean, we had an error. We had something happening in our office just today where I was on the phone with support, and it was similar. It was some kind of breach with one of our team, and we're a small company. We can't afford for that to happen. We've got security things that need to be in place for ourselves as well. Can you tell me about some of the common types of human errors that you've seen or that are happening out there that even some of the owners may not be aware of that maybe their employees are doing?
Well, I'll tell you, like 90% of these targeted attacks are phishing campaigns. So it's social engineering. They understand that the technology, and they meaning the malicious people, the malicious actors, they're looking to breach the network or gain information that they can use to sell. They understand that the technology is fairly complicated, and in order to get through those barriers, it's going to be a lot more challenging. You have to have a lot more skill and knowledge, and the human element is a lot easier to play on. So if I can get somebody to click on something, or I can tug on their heartstrings or make them curious, then that's the easiest route. So the phishing campaigns is the number one concern. Getting a message that comes in that looks like it's from your CEO that says, hey, I don't know if you got my last email. I'm not sure that you did, but I need you to send this money over to so-and-so. And here's the wire information or what have you. And it looks exactly like it came from the CEO. And you're like, oh, man, he sent me this email. I didn't get it. Now this is time sensitive. I better go ahead and do this.
Okay.
You see, a lot of times it's getting the employees where they have to act on something, and it's time sensitive. So, your account is going to be canceled if you don't update your password, those kind of things. And then you click on a link and it takes you to a page that looks very similar to the actual page itself. And you type in your old password and a new password, and your old password is now theirs. Wow. So that is the biggest concern and issue that we see is the phishing campaigns.
So give me. You talk about Antidote for human error. What are some ways? To either educate your employees, your team, or to avoid some of those scams? So what are some things to look for?
I think just right off the top, grammar plays a big part into it. So if you see some lowercase i's and punctuation is off and words are misspelled, you can immediately be suspicious. That's very common in a phishing campaign. Because a lot of times these are coming from, it could be another country where English is not their first language, or maybe it's someone younger that just has access to those programs. But grammar plays a big part in it. And what I would say just initially is, if there is any kind of an action for you to take where it's about an account or credentials or anything of that nature, that never click on a link or anything in an email. Just go directly to that site by typing it in your browser, or make a phone call and call that company directly and see if there's been an incident and go handle it that way. But clicking on a link in an email that has anything to do with credentials or private information or money, accounts, anything like that, is just absolutely stay away from.
So thanks for that advice. So let's say that, I'm aware that poor grammar, or if a print is offering me something, that there's probably something suspicious about that.
Sure.
But what if I feel confident in opening an attachment? Are you have the same rule with opening an attachment?
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
Okay. So what if I see a link or I see an attachment or something I'm clicking and I feel confident? I say, you know what? I'm on my Mac. I've got this antivirus protection going. And that happens to me often. I say I'm probably immune to it. Am I mistaken on that?
Well, a lot of times you can hover over things. So if you were to hover over a link, you would actually see what the address it's going to take you to. So it could say google.com, like a hyperlink or something like that. But if you hover over it and you see the actual URL that it's going to take you to, if it's different than that, that's one way to find out. Okay. So I would say something of that nature, just really investigating. And then, in the event that it is an attachment like that, maybe just replying to that particular sender, or sending a separate email to that sender and asking if they sent you an attachment. Just get a confirmation that if you feel really good about it. I still think we need to be cautious because the tactics that are being used nowadays, they're so advanced and they're so good. They've done their homework and they've really sharpened their skill set. So I think you can never be too cautious. I mean, you hear that a lot. It's a little cliche, but this is definitely a situation where, trusting something and not taking that extra second could wind up costing you really, really big time.
Help us understand more of the back end of how that works. So let's say I do click on it. Let's say I don't know when I click on it, and I'm not giving away. Let's say I'm not giving away sensitive, financial information. I'm not changing my account, giving them that. But I click on a link that I shouldn't. What happens on my end once I do that?
Well, typically you would have some kind of, it could be ransomware. I mean, we'll talk about that because that's the most common one, where that program is going to embed itself into your computer. It's going to begin locking down files that are important. It has instructions built into it, but when you click on that link, what it does is it activates that. It brings that ransomware onto your resource that you're working on, whether it be a laptop or desktop or whatever. Okay. And then it's going to phone home. It's going to call back to its command center. It's going to say, "Hey, I'm here. What do you want me to do now?" And so then that's when it gets its command and it says, okay, based on the program, this is what I want you to do. I want you to look for these types of files and I want you to lock them down and encrypt them so that the user no longer has access to those files without paying us this certain sum. And so it'll kick up a ransom note that will tell you these files have been encrypted. If you want access to those back, then here's the price you have to pay, and we'll give you an encryption key for you to unlock those files.
And when you pay it, do they unlock the file?
There's a lot of back and forth on this one, whether you should pay it or not. I don't know the exact statistic on paying it or not. What the success rate is, but this is the way you have to look at that. Ransomware is a business, and it's set up to the point that they have customer support. I mean, they want you to be successful. They want you to look at them and say, man, that, they did their job or whatever. But every time that you pay a ransom, you're feeding that business. So right. You're giving them confirmation that this is a viable business by, supporting it financially. So, right. That's, at the end of the day, that's the way that I look at it.
Your financial information as well when they get that? Or are they really just trying to, are they really trying to basically hold your program's ransom, as it says, until you pay something?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of different scenarios there. They're just, all they want to do is get your money from you. But even if you pay them, there are some instances where the ransomware can still be on your computer and can become active again later on down the road. But what they really want is just your money from you for right now. When they take your credentials, like if it was a spoof where there's a website like Google and it says, hey, you need to change your password. And so you click on that link, it takes you to a page that looks just like Google's password reset page, and you type in your password. Now they have your credentials there. And what they would do with that is use your credentials to gain access to other financial information or sell those credentials to people. So if they can get any kind of personal information, anything that's valuable, and the more information they get, the more private or sensitive that data is, obviously the more valuable it is. So a lot of times they'll just get that information and they'll take it back to the dark web and they'll say, hey, look, I've got all this information. Who wants it?
Do they also come up under programs that you might trust to trick you like that? So, for example, am I getting something from Microsoft Office or things like that, or is it just specific programs that maybe I didn't realize in the past or that I maybe hadn't paid for in the past?
A lot of times it is, third-party applications and programs. But to say that it can't come through Microsoft or hasn't would be, that'd be misleading. Okay. It absolutely can. But typically when you would see something directly from Microsoft or something like that, it's generally going to be safer. But again, that can happen, and a lot of times you'll see some piggybacking. So when you download something, there's actually another program inside of that. So, I mean, even with like adware and spyware and things like that, if you just click OK, and download it, you wind up with all these different, browser toolbars and things that you're like, where did that come from?
Right.
And it's because that checkbox was up in there saying that you agreed to download it just by speeding through the download process. So you kind of have to read that stuff and uncheck those things. Otherwise, you wind up with a little annoying brother tugging on your shirt.
That's great. So what if how does someone check? I mean, how does someone know? Are they going to be, if someone has that, are they going to know it? Their computer's not going to be functioning properly. They're going to be getting these ransomware requests, or might it sit dormant for a while and someone might not even know about it?
Yeah. I mean, all of that. So, it's a situation where because ransomware programs are written nowadays where if it feels like it's being sandboxed, so if it feels like something is observing it to see what it's doing, to learn more about it, then it'll just sit still. And because it doesn't want to be detected, it doesn't want anybody to find out where it's coming from or to understand, how the program works or anything like that. So a lot of times it will sit still until there's the right time. Maybe it's you moved your mouse around for 5 or 10 minutes. So it knows that that's a human user and that it knows that it's not on a dummy machine that's just a sandbox looking to observe the actual ransomware itself to collect data about it. The other situation when it comes to the ransomware is, it has to call back home. So if you have something in place, like, for example, I worked for a cloud-based network security solution about a year or so ago. And what it does is it monitors the traffic coming into the network from the internet and then also out to the internet from the network. So if something were to get through on an email, when it gets on the computer, now the ransomware has to phone home. So as it exposes itself and goes to phone home, and it's phoning home to a location that is known as a malicious actor, then that communication would be blocked. And so there's a lot of software out there and firewalls and things of that nature that will look for that communication outbound as well as looking for stuff coming in. But the fact that they're in links and emails and attachments, a lot of times the technology that's there can't detect it on the way in. So it has to wait for it to kind of expose itself and try to call home. But then it's still, at that point, it's still effective because it hasn't received its command to lock down any data that's on your computer. So at that point, it's just on your computer. It hasn't done any damage, so you can remove it.
That's incredible. I thank you so much. You're telling me a lot more than I've ever heard about this. You say 50% of businesses fell victim to ransomware last year. That's a big number.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I was, just from statistic wise, because to me, it's really important, these small and medium sized businesses, that they understand that they are a target because they're the ones that, we don't really hear about them very often. The news only wants to cover the Targets and the big, huge, the Yahoos and all of that,
right,
those breaches, because those are more newsworthy.
Sure.
But it's the small guys that are the low-hanging fruit for hackers because they understand that their security policies and their security measures are not as up to par as those enterprise level companies are. And so they're going to go for them first because they know that it's easier. I was reading from an insurance company that did a survey for insurance claims, and 40% of the claims that they had for small to medium-sized businesses were caused by phishing. And these are actual claims. So there's been a breach, and they are filing a claim. So 40% were caused by phishing through an email. And all of those 40% could have been prevented with just some type of training, helping employees understand that, this is what you need to look for, making them aware. And it's funny because one of the other statistics on there was 90% of those claims came from businesses that were under 50 million in revenue. Verizon had a study where 71% of their breaches that they discovered were fewer than 100 employees.
Wow.
So, I mean, almost 3/4 of the breaches that Verizon researched were from small businesses under 100 employees. And
that's incredible.
In that insurance company, in those statistics, as I was looking through that, it was really alarming to see that 74% of those companies think that they're safe, that they have nothing to worry about. So that alone is part of the problem. You know, we've got to understand that the small to medium-sized business is a huge target because it's the easy target because they feel exactly like that they're safe and they don't have anything to worry about.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And it makes sense as you go for the low-hanging fruit, and that's what smaller companies are. Hey, I want to talk more about that in a minute and more about cyber awareness training and some other things, but I'm just curious. Tell me how phones are impacted. Are our iPhones, are our smartphones, are they subject to these things as well?
Yeah, absolutely they are. I think the Androids, some of the top malware out there, the most number of cases of malware affect Androids, fewer affecting iPhones, but that number will climb and continues to climb.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely, they are a threat. I think there was, when you're on your phone, for example, and you're at, any kind of a public Wi-Fi situation, and you're just logging on to that dirty Wi-Fi. Right. That's what I call it because there's no security and everybody's on it. And, for somebody that's a malicious actor and they want to monitor those networks, they have wide open access a lot of times.
And they're on there, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're on your laptop or whatever. That's the thing with mobile phones. Mobile phones traditionally have been more secure than taking your laptop to a coffee shop, for example, but more and more of the case where mobile phones are a huge target because malicious actors understand that people are on their phones all of the time.
Yeah, I think me personally, I felt safe if I'm clicking through a link. I'm like, well, I'm on my phone, so if this is not legit, I'll click through, I'll see. But
well, you can get them from third-party apps and things like that. So, understanding the apps that you're downloading, and not just downloading some kind of sketchy app from wherever that you saw a link to or something like that. Right. That's where you'll see those things come in. Okay,
that's great to know. Now are apps in places like the App Store, are they vetted?
I would say that they are. I don't know that 100%. I'm not sure exactly how they go into that process, but there's no way that you could ever be 100% secure.
Right. So, and I'm wary when I download those free apps. My kids have a few games they like, and when I download them, I say, you know what? I know I'm probably giving up some personal information here, but it's probably a legit company that's
and there are
advertising and exchange. But
right, and there are programs that you can get for your phone that will look for things like that. It's actually like a spyware or a antivirus for your phone, so you can look into things like that, and it'll tell you if something's running on the startup, but it's just kind of dormant. It's just sitting back there running in the background. So you don't necessarily see an app or anything. It's just kind of in the background doing what it does.
Well, that's good to know, just so you're not going and infecting, you're continuing to, you might be doing something on your phone that's coinciding with some of your work programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times those, when you have a malicious software on your computer or on your phone, it'll be there for a long time. It basically it's sitting there listening, putting its ear to the wall, seeing how much information it can get from you. And as long as it can sit there and get information from you without you knowing it's there, it's going to do that. So, wow. That's the way they're set up. Just sit there and monitor and listen and send back information. Whatever you're finding, send it back home to me.
So are some of those hiding from your antivirus programs as well?
Yeah, they're going to try to. I think that's why you have to really vet out the antivirus software that you're using, and make sure that that the threats that it's looking for, the techniques that it's using to find threats, that it's using a threat list, a signature list that's up to date, that it's using some other forms of technology that are more current, that it's not just using outdated methods to find threats.
Okay, that's great to know. Hey, we've got a few more minutes. I want to make sure we get to talking about the solutions. So let's talk a little bit more. Talk to me about cyber awareness training and then some of the things that you guys are doing on your end to help businesses like mine, to businesses that our listeners have, to help protect them and avoid some of these costly mistakes.
Yeah, I think, for us, we kind of talked about this at the very top. For us, it's helping business owners understand that security is not an IT issue anymore. This is not something that your IT department is just supposed to take care of and you don't have to worry about it. It's also not a cost. It's an investment. When you get a breach and you have to replace all your computers, or you have to replace a server, or you have to spend all that money, that's a cost. But cybersecurity and making sure that your business is taken care of is the cost of doing business. I mean, you're investing in making sure that it is secure and that you're able to continue to do business. So, that's kind of the first initial stage in this is helping CEOs buy in and understand that cybersecurity is something that they need to be a part of. So, having a risk assessment, understanding what the data is that they have and where it's stored, so that they can kind of begin to take this into business decisions. How sensitive is this? Where are we storing it? And how are we going to protect it? The cyber awareness training side of it, the other part of this is getting the staff to buy in.
Okay.
So making the staff understand that they are a huge vulnerability. They're a liability. No matter how much technology that you put in place, how many different layers or anything, if somebody clicks on a link, it's all for nothing. So making them understand that they are a vulnerability and that they absolutely could take a business down, and just keeping it simple and helping them understand what to look for, because a lot of times that's all it is. It's just they don't know what to look for. And if you don't, if we didn't go down to the DMV and have to take a test and learn how to drive a car, there'd be a ton of car wrecks every day. I mean, more than there already are. So it's the same situation. If we're going to have them be a part of the business operations and handling data and interacting with the internet, then we need to give them the information that they need so that they can do that responsibly. Yeah,
and this is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today as well. Is you've got your own entrepreneurial journey. You're an entrepreneur like many of our listeners, but I really wanted to have you on also because we talk so much about inspirational stories and the grind and the growth and the scale and all those things. But when there's a hole in I consider this one of the holes in the bucket, where if you're doing all the other things right, but you're missing something this important, it can hurt your business or cause it to fail of something that you just weren't focusing on. So, and again, today I had an email go out to my team saying we had some issues and such a great point. How do you get your team to buy into it? So how do you do that? What are some ways to get your team, or do you have some resources available?
Yeah, so ShieldLogic was or is a company that we spun up as a subsidiary of ours to provide cyber awareness training for businesses. We saw that there was a huge need for that, and that businesses were suffering, and it was simply because people don't have the information. They're not aware of what to look for. The employees are often, overlooked and neglected, and it's just like, here's your workstation, here's what you need to do, get to work.
Right.
So ShieldLogic, traditionally training has been this really boring, once a quarter or once every 6 months or a year, somebody from IT comes down to the break room or the conference room, and you get some stale coffee and some stale bagels, and they sit up in front of the whiteboard and they go through a security presentation that everyone absolutely hates. And that's the way that training has been. So it's coming from the IT professional that's frustrated because nobody cares about it. So they're just, checking the box because it is a compliance thing where, well, we have to train them. They hate it. We have to train them, but so we'll just get through it and we'll check the box and say we trained them. And then from the employee perspective, there's somebody up there that's talking about something that they've been passionate about their whole lives, and they could sit up there and talk about it all day, and all the employees want them to do is be quiet and not ever talk about it again. So what ShieldLogic has done is kind of flip that on its head. And with employees, you have to engage them on their level. They're not tech people, in terms of knowing the architecture and what those threats are. They know how to operate their computer and social media and their phones and all of that, but they don't understand the vulnerabilities there. So approaching them in a way that helps them engage. So with ShieldLogic, we have this content, and that's the star of the training. But it's content that's delivered to them in kind of your modern day sitcom comedy format, where
it's great. I watched one of your videos with the characters of sound judgment and human error.
Exactly. And, so personifying those.
I didn't want to end, and I know that sounds like I'm pandering to say it, but I loved it. It was great. It's a funny video, and it really makes the point. And I think my team's going to enjoy watching this tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is if you can address employees on their level and connect with them where they see themselves in those characters and they see themselves in those environments, then it's relevant to them. And now it makes sense to them. And so they can say, oh, okay, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Right. And, it's presented in a way that's funny, but it's about a really serious subject. So they laugh and they're engaged and they pay attention to it. And at the end of it, they absolutely know what was the message that was told. So yeah, that's the difference with this method of training is that it resonates with employees and it helps them connect. And if you can do that, then you can get them to retain the information. If you can't, then you might as well just talk to the wall.
I love it. So your team with ShieldLogic.com, and I want our listeners to visit that. Watch the video. Take a look at the site. It's got great statistics talking about 95% of breaches involve human error. $4 million is the average cost a company incurs on every security breach. 3 hours average time a day. Security professionals are dealing with employee negligence. Nearly half of all companies don't have security awareness training, and it goes on and on. So there's great information here for your management team for you to look at, and also the videos that your team will enjoy. So there's different levels of support that you guys offer. Is that correct, Adam?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think for your listeners, what I want to do for them is understanding that, we're working with small businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. Our mission is to get these businesses on the right track. That's been our whole mission so far this year, and we'll continue until we feel like we've made an impact or just ongoing forever. I mean, this is going to be an issue that doesn't ever go away, so we just have to keep attacking it. But what we want to do is we want to offer 5 free training licenses. So 5 people at your business can get training for a year for free.
Wow.
So you just have to go to ShieldLogic.com/leadership. And it's going to take you there to contact us, and we'll get you guys all set up. But it's 1 video a month. It's really short, less than 3 minutes. And like I said, and like Derek said, it's really funny. It's easy to watch. And that's it. So once a month, and that way that training is coming at you like a slow drip. We just want to hydrate you with the information. And if we try to make you drink from the fire hose, we're going to blow your head off instead of quench your thirst. So,
man, that's a generous offer. So you're saying each of our listeners, if they have up to 5 training licenses or 5 people at their organization can participate
absolutely
in this for a year.
Yeah. And if if there's 5 executives that you want to get on board to check it out, and see what they think, and then get the rest of the team on board if you have more than that, or if you have 5 employees that are handling computers on a regular basis and you feel like that's the place to start, then you can start there. And if it's just you by yourself, then you have training for yourself or for you and your business partner for a year. So I think it's a good opportunity for everybody to just take a step in the direction, because it's really not as big of an issue if you break it up into pieces. And the things that are causing these breaches are absolutely preventable with really, really simple information. You don't have to go out and spend $1 million to make sure that you're protected and go through all of this stuff. If you just take one step and start gaining some information, like this training does, it's just going to bring it to you in a really funny format, then you're on the right track.
Love it. Man, Adam, thank you so much for being our guest today. That's Adam Brewer. He's the COO of Information Systems Integration. That's ISI, and then formed the ShieldLogic IQ. You can go to ShieldLogic.com/leadership, and I encourage you to do that. There's no hidden thing here. It's a gift that he's given to our listeners.
Absolutely free.
Worth doing that for free for a year. I'm signing up our team today. Remember, 95% of these breaches are human error, and they're employees that are doing that. So you want to make sure that you're protecting your clients, your customers, your assets.
Absolutely.
And be responsible. So, Adam, thanks again for taking your time. And, man, we look forward to staying in contact with you and seeing the other great things that your company's putting out as a resource.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your listeners. And I hope that what we've covered here today, and then with the training on going forward, that we're able to help some businesses kind of be on the path to a more secure business practice.
That's awesome, Adam. If some of our listeners have additional questions, or if they start engaging the process and are looking for more support, are they able to do that through your website as well?
Yeah, absolutely. They can. You can access us. Find us on the website, contact us, or you can just send an email to contact@shieldlogic.com. But going to the website will give you, all the access you need to us. There'll probably be a little chat box that pops up if you need to talk to somebody, or like I said, if you just want to email us, there's a phone number on there as well. Or if you just want to email contact@shieldlogic.com.
Awesome, Adam. Thanks again, and you take care.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. You too.
You've been listening to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. This interview was designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be.